Okay, greetings from Govardhan. It seems we should give people just a few more minutes. So I'll just talk to you a bit. Kartik's still almost 3 weeks away. But what I decided here is because the energy moving towards Krishna is so intense when you make a commitment to live here, you have to go in that direction. And I described a simple analogy of like a sailboat. And there's wind, and wind goes east. Then if you turn west, it's a struggle. But it's not the wind that's the problem. It's the direction you're moving. And I've always experienced that in Vrindavan, that Prabhupada said three days or 3 years. And I don't take that like literally. I understand what he means is if you stay longer, you really have to be careful to be engaged in service, to move in that direction. So I kind of sitting here and I decided that for me to move in that direction, I should go around Govardhan half every day. So I leave at 5 or 5:30. It takes exactly 2.5 hours. And it's a great way to start. You can't imagine because I don't eat after lunch. So you can imagine my appetite when I get back by 8:30. Anything I eat, it's like drinking water. But it keeps you fit in devotion spiritually. And it just seems to be the way I have to live here now. Although tomorrow I will go into Vrindavan. Hemalata Radha and Shyam Kishore have arrived there first. They're coming for Jai Jagannath.
I saw them today in the temple.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. And Jai Jagannath's retreat. So I'll go in and I'll give class at 8. There's a few people that really like to hear from me, and we really go deep. Just a couple. I'm really satisfied. Just a couple of people. And they'll join. And then we'll go to the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta rotis, the unparalleled cuisine in the world. I'm convinced of it. So, okay, I think it should be almost time to start. Okay, we will start. So just a little introduction is, traveling, I got a little, I lost my train of thought in terms of where we were going, what it was. And I really wasn't satisfied with last week's classes. So we're going to start in chapter 4, and I'll just review chapter 3, and we'll be back on our thread. So reading from the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, chapter 4, Bhakta, the devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śrī Parīkṣit uvāca. śrutvā mahāścaryam iveśa-bhāṣitaṁ. prahlāda-sandarśana-jāta-kautukaḥ. hṛd-yānataḥ śrī Sutale gato cirād. dhāvan praviṣṭaḥ puram āsuraṁ muniḥ. Śrī Parīkṣit said, after hearing these wonderful words of Lord Śiva, Nārada Muni became eager to see Prahlāda. By mystic power, the sage within a moment flew to Sutala Loka and entered the city of the asuras. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Taksur Unmulatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Pancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So chapter 3 began in Narada's journey, and I looked at the list of people. You all have the general idea. Nārada looking for I can't repeat it enough times, Parama Disha Antim. Parama, the top, Antim, stage. Parama, the top stage of devotion, the topmost recipient of Krishna's devotion. And as he goes through that journey, which is parallel to the journey of the Bhagavatam, because the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta is a summary of the Bhagavatam given by Mahāścaryam to his mother at the end of his life. So it's very interesting because the story is one thing, but there's a philosophical thing being presented. So you can present the same philosophical thing in a different form with different stories, but it's still the same message. But it's also very parallel because he's looking for different stages of devotees, and the Bhagavatam also is the same. Like you have Prahlāda, which we're coming to now, and Prahlāda is not really Dasya, he's kind of Shantaras in a sense. His devotion is his remembrance and his appreciation and his prayers. And he'll point to Hanuman, who has the mood of service. And then Hanuman will point to the residents of Dwarka, the Pandavas, who are kind of in a devotional friendship in one sense, a little bit higher. So it's going in the same progression. But in this presentation of the topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy, somehow the story is covering every prominent Vaishnava. And even though it's a comparative study, in every prominent Vaishnava, you see the essence of devotion. That's why Madhva-acharya, I remember I spoke many times about this. There's a commentary. There's a verse in the 15th chapter, after they're discussing the pastimes of Krishna killing Dhenukasura, of Otam Protam. God is Otam Protam. He's the horizontal and vertical threads of the universe. He's Otam Protam. Stop fidgeting. Don't fidget. He's the horizontal and vertical threads of the universe. And the verse didn't make sense because in the middle of all this rasa and he's killing the demons, and then it presents this Aishwarya. And I made this point many, many times. that the reason that verse is presented is because Aishvarya inspires dasya, or servitorship. And that's the foundation of every relationship, especially for people who don't yet have a spontaneous relationship with Krishna. If they want to develop a rasa, they want to develop a relationship, they have to have a firm conception of servitorship. So each relationship is servitorship. It's all pure devotion. It's all anya bilashita shunyam. It's without any other extraneous desires, in the mood, anukulyena Krishna anusha, in the mood of following Krishna's desire. And of course, in Braja, following Krishna's desire is your relationship with him, in conjugal, in friendship, in parental, etc. But the basis, and even in this book, Vallabh-kush-manjali by Raghunath Das Goswami, which discusses Manjari Bhav, there's a famous verse I forgot about. Everyone says, I want to be your servant and servant. Gopi Bharta Padakamala Dasa Dasa Anudasa. It's all servitorship. So that's the main thing. And then it may take different forms of intimacy. And in one sense, it's just different ways to please someone. A person may have different relations, they're all very, very sweet. It's not just he has a romantic relationship and he's satisfied, but he has friends and he has loving parents and he has children. So Krishna is Akila Rasa Amrita Murti. He's a full embodiment of all those relationships. And they all give him pleasure. Variety is the spice of life. Prabhupada gave a simple example. There is milk and sugar. You can mix them together. And it's nice. It's nice. Milk, I remember I got the first Hare Krishna cookbook about 50 years ago. And I was living with some roommate. He looked at one of the recipes. It said milk. 1 cup milk, 1/3 cup sugar. He said, what is this? He was laughing. That's a recipe. But so Prabhupada said there's milk and there's sugar, but you can combine them together to make sandesh, to make para, to make burfi, to make misti dahi, to make shrikant, to make kheer, to make rasgulla, to make bigger rasgulla, rajbhog. You can combine them, and then there's variety and there's taste. Except when you get older, it's not good to take too many sweets. If I took the amount of sweets now, when I first came to Vrindavan, I'd probably die. It's unbelievable. I don't know. We came to Krishna consciousness. We didn't really have sense of being sadhus in terms of eating. And I believe Prabhupada even kept a barrel of glove chuppins by the door at 26 Second Avenue, But that variety. So they're all in their own way. And what do we see? What do we see Lord Śiva doing when Nārada is directed to him by Lord Brahma? He's dancing ecstatically in kirtan. And in that kirtan, he's reciprocating with the others in kirtan. He's appreciating Parvati's cartel play. He's appreciating his bull, Nandishwar, is prancing around. And it's very... And then Nārada comes and he just sees this. And he sees devotion. You can see devotion. You read my next Monday morning greetings where I was absolutely struggling on this philosophical point. It's called, Can an Atheist Be Moral? And the answer is yes, philosophically, yes. But I was referring, this whole thing, and I'm referring to a verse where it said a person is not a devotee, doesn't have any good qualities. So I'm trying to reconcile these things. But the ultimate reconciliation is when I was on Parikram, and especially this Govinda Kund side. And then they've really taken care of Govardhan nice. And when you get to the opposite side, there's an inner path by Jatipura, which is just so lush with trees and a sandy path. I mean, it's beautiful what they've done. And a very clean-dressed man walking the other way. He's a school teacher, I found that. He probably was teaching in Jatipura, lives in the, holding his bead bag, pays his obeisances to me. He's at my feet like this. And it wasn't artificial. I could see this abject goodness in this person. So it can be fake, but also you can also for sure see the sincerity of devotion in people. And real devotees. It became the basis, it became the conclusion of my article. Because I said, yes, atheists can be moral, but not like this. Because an atheist, he could not steal. He can be moral. He cannot want to abuse his family. He can be moral. I said, not like this. Not like when you fully acquiesce to God in a full surrender to the will of God and what that does to your heart when you're free from anya-bhāṣitaṁ, when you're free from any other motives. So Nārada sees this and he begins to sing, because it's a kirtan, and he begins to sing Lord Shiva's glories. And then, of course, Lord Shiva sees him, and Nārada is about to pay his obeisances, and he's glorifying him, and then he grabs him first. And then they sit down, and a conversation begins of Krishna-katha that puts Lord Shiva in absolute ecstasy. And then Nārada starts, glorifying him, and Lord Shiva, not different from God, and he has a particular tattva. It's just the resistance of Lord Shiva to being glorified and praised. He puts his both hands over Nārada's mouth after a while. He feels so embarrassed. And then that common theme, he begins to look at the times where, where maybe it didn't look so devotional, or he didn't feel so devotional, or he didn't act apparently devotional. But Nārada just, first of all, he thought he offended Lord Shiva, but then he kept on glorifying, trying to find different ways to glorify him that maybe wouldn't offend him so much. How everybody, he becomes liberated, all his disciples are liberated. So he just in so many different ways tries to, his relationship with Krishna, that Krishna himself sometimes worships Lord Shiva. And then you see Lord Shiva and his reaction. It's just that core bhava that a devotee has. He's got off of this mental plane of calculation for superiority and ego that just is your constitutional way you look at the world and view things and what your faith is. And when you have that, you love praise. But when you have bhava, when you're feeling this devotion and you're feeling this humility in your heart, you really don't want that. You don't want to move out of the bhava to that mental plane. I'm superior, I'm enjoyer, I'm controller, I'm better than others. It's you don't want to move. So we see it's a typical tussle in the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. And I guess it must be a very important point. A devotee doesn't want to be glorified. And material consciousness, everything we do is for that. Because control and enjoy, we want power. Being glorified and being held in esteem is power. Devotee, they're resisting it. And then, and Nārada not only glorifies Lord Śiva, he glorifies Parvati. He said she's so dear to Krishna, like a sister. So dear to Krishna, like a sister, that even though you're so renounced, Lord Śiva, you still worship her, because how much Krishna loves you. It's like when Bhakti Siddhanta was at Radhakund, and devotees came to him, said the king of Bharatpur is, paying Dandavat Parikram around Govardhan, how wonderful that is. And, and he says, why? He said, yeah, because he's worshiping Krishna. Prabhupada said, well, we only worship Krishna because Radha loves him so much. So he's worshiping Parvati. She loves Lord Śiva, and Śiva loves her. And then, after hearing this and really being embarrassed, then as the theme, he starts to deflect praise by pointing to others. Now, the difficulty they had with this chapter is that even though there's this gradation, I think sometimes there's a group of people and you really can't gradate them. I mean, it's just a question of pointing to different, and you go in different chapters to different levels of intimacy, but they're just glorifying Vaishnavas and the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. And Nārada, in his search, he wants to search everyone. And in the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, the Bhagavatam, it does want to show the stages. To show the ultimate stage is the residence of Vrindavan and the love of the gopis for Krishna. Because even one time in this thing, Parvati says, well, because Lord Śiva says, well, what about those residents of Vaikuntha? They're completely free from pride. No one that goes into Vaikuntha has any pride. And they're so ecstatic and they're so devotional, and it's glorified in countless ways that I can't remember. And they're always doing Sankirtan and glorifying each other. Matchita, Matkata, Prana, Bodhiyantas Parasva, their consciousness, Matchata, their Matka, their goal, Matchata, their prana, their life, Bodhiyantas Param, always glorifying each other. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya. Nityam means every day. Lord Śiva says, see these residents of Vaikuntha, what devotion they have. And it just describes in verse after verse the consciousness of purity, that you have no other desire. It's so beautiful. No selfishness within the heart. And because there's no selfishness in the heart, it's Vaikuntha. Because there's no selfishness in the heart, it's Vaikuntha. And then Lord Shiva says another thing, and it's so beautifully, he says, not only the residents of Vaikuntha, but also there are pure devotees on the earth planet, and even though they have bodies, they have no desire. Even though they have material bodies, they have no desire. And they have no desire to such an extent that they don't even care they're on the earth. They just care about service. Someone is not okay. And they're all also doing Sankirtan. And they don't care where they are. They just want to serve. That's their only focus. And at the end of life, they'll go back to the Vaikuntha planets. And then Parvati, she interjects, well, if you want to know, you're talking about Vaikuntha, there's no one like Lakshmi Devi. And she's worshipped all over the world, Lakshmi Devi, but she only cares about Krishna. And then she's glorified, and then Nārada becomes really enthusiastic. I have to meet Lakshmi Devi, and then Krishna says, well, no, you can't go to Vaikuntha now. She's here on the earth planet, don't you? You probably forgot. Krishna's, Narayan's in Dwarka, and Lakshmi has appeared as Rukmini. But I'll tell you a secret. I'll tell you a secret. If you want to go by the Bhāgavatāmṛta, there's nothing like the pure devotees like Prahlāda. And we were there when the Shringadev appeared, willing to offer him any benediction. And he doesn't want anything. And he's completely fearless. Then he glorifies Prahlāda. So that was that chapter. It ended with the glorification of Prahlāda. And now, after hearing these wonderful words, he has faith in Lord Shiva. So Shiva says, see Prahlāda. So he trusts that. And what happens from hearing? Happens from hearing, then jāta-kautukaḥ, a great desire of what rises in the heart. What is rag marg? Rag means when you see an object and you're attached to it. That's called rag. You see a woman, you're attached to it. You see a man, you're attached to it. You become extremely attached. So what rag bhakti means, you have that same conception with Krishna. You see Krishna, you become attached to it. You not only become attached, but you see the devotees who have love for Krishna, you want that love. And that arises by the mercy of the devotee or the mercy of Krishna. And there's two types. One is prachina, from your previous life. And then you automatically gravitate to the pure devotee. Or adunika, means in the modern way. It may come in this life. And then you have that greed. It doesn't start by Shastra. It starts by this natural attraction. But then you become eager for Shastra. It's like if you become attracted to tasting milk and now you want milk. Okay, we got to milk a cow. So now you have to understand the science of it. So that type of bhakti, it begins first by that desire. And then without Shastra, you're not going to get it. Then Shastra will tell you how to cultivate it, how to get it. But it begins by somehow by the mercy of God or the mercy of devotees, or by the practice of devotion very intensely rising in your heart. You develop an intense desire. And it's very rare that I want to serve Krishna as this resident of Vrindavan is serving Krishna. So, And what happens then, at that level, then what happens is, hṛd-yānataḥ, your desire becomes automatically fulfilled beyond the modes of nature. You want to be there, you're there. Desire becomes so strong that you're there in a moment. In a moment. And Nārada goes to this planet. Tavad vavikte bhagavat padambuja premno lasadhyana vishakta cetasa Śrī Vaishnava-grena samiksha durata protaya vipra panato prapontikam gata. At that moment, Prahlāda, the best of devotees, was sitting in a secluded place, his mind wrapped in loving meditation on the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's bhakti. It's kind of a, not exactly shanta, but not exactly dasya. It's appreciation. I think it's appreciation. You appreciate, you pray, you remember. So Prahlāda has that kind of bhakti. So he's sitting in meditation. And then he sees Nārada, so he stands up. It's somehow when I first in India and associating with senior Vaishnavas, they told me that if a senior Vaishnava walks in and you don't rise, you lose some of your life because the life air rises. If you don't also rise, they told me like that. But anyway, it's out of respect. Because bhava becomes anubhava. You have devotion, then it becomes acts of devotion are essential. And the acts of devotion are a different flavor of devotion. So he stood up and then bowed down to offer respects. It's called anubhava. You have a devotion. Anu is followed with an action. The action increases devotion. So he comes, he stands up, then he bows down. In Bhakti Sandarbha, when it describes padasevana, one of the 9 items of devotional service, one is paying obeisances. And it describes the consciousness. I am less. I am less, you are more. And I remember this sadhu telling me he was in an āsuraṁ, and then somehow he left the āsuraṁ for a while, and he came to Govardhan. He was a Gaudiya Vaishnava. And then he would bow, he would cry. He would see Govardhan Hill, he would cry, and see the devotees, he would cry. And he would have that beautiful feeling, just bowing down, bowing down. There used to be a sadhu in Radhakund. He would bow down to everyone. You could see the joy in that. So now, in the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, we're seeing Prahlāda through the eyes of Nārada. So, pate piyatnad upaveshito yam pujam paravad vidinar payamam ramanta che harshasham ashlesha parovadatam. Prahlāda carefully seated Nārada on a throne, priyatnat, with great care. He sat Nārada on a throne and began to worship him with elaborate ancient rituals. And suddenly embraced Prahlāda, showering many tears of joy and embracing him again and again. Nārada said to Prahlāda. So there was worship, but it wasn't ritual. It was an expression of emotion. Just like I forgot once said that when you offer the lamp, you should feel you're offering your heart. And it described when Raghunath Das Goswami was given the Govardhan Shila by Lord Chaitanya, his seva was Bob's seva. It was the tears that came from his eyes, is what he offered. More than anything else, the worship was so simple. But what was important was devotion. So it's interesting because it said he seated him, pujam vidina, with elaborate ritual, he worshipped him. But what happened is his heart became overwhelmed. And then he embraced him, and tears of joy came. Sri Nārada uvāca drishtash cirād Krishna kripa parasya patram bhavan me safalashramo bhut abalyato yasya hi Krishna bhaktir jita vasudha nakuto piyasit. Sri Nārada said, now after I am able to see your lordship, now the great trouble I took to come here has borne its fruit. You are the object of the great mercy of Lord Krishna. Since earliest childhood, you have possessed devotion for Krishna so pure, it cannot be seen in any other person. So it's very extraordinary. Because the Abhideya Tattva, the truth of the practice of devotion. There's three categories of knowledge: Sambandha Gyan, metaphysical and epistemological knowledge. What is the absolute truth? How do you know it's true? That's one category. Then knowing the absolute truth, how do you realize it? That's another category. And then what is the result of doing so? So, and the verse, the fourth Chatur Shloki is the seed verse for the Abhideya Tattva. One should search for this. What? Prema was in the previous verse. One should search for this everywhere and anywhere. Everywhere and anywhere, directly and indirectly. And if you look at that purport, if you look at the length of the purports of Prabhupada as his personal ecstasy, that purport and the 9 processes of devotional service in the 7th canto, that's in the 9th chapter of the 2nd canto. Those are as long as verses, and Prabhupada says anywhere and everywhere. It doesn't matter species of life, gender, caste. It doesn't matter, animal, human. And then he says it doesn't matter being born or unborn. And what's the example of unborn taking to bhakti? The example of unborn taking to bhakti was Prahlāda in the womb. His mother heard the Bhāgavatāmṛta at the ashram of Narada Muni, I think. He heard the Bhāgavatāmṛta. And so from the womb. So it's described that the great devotees, they're pure in birth, they're pure in life, and they're pure in death. And the example given as that was Maharaj Bṛhad. He saw Krishna in the womb. So Parīkṣit, he got his samskara right there, and his life was perfect, and his death was perfect. They're thinking of the same thing of Gaur Govinda Maharaj, my godbrother, born in a Vaishnava family, preached Krishna conscious, Prabhupada's disciple, and then left the world with a picture of his Ishtadev, Gopal Ju, his deities, in his arms, and then left the world in perfection. So Prahlāda was perfect. So here he's saying, and in the womb, you're the object, since childhood, you had devotion. And what obstacles he faced. A demoniac father who was so opposed to devotion. But he went into classrooms, and what did he say? Komara acharate pragyo. Even if you're a little kid, if you're pragyo, if you're very intelligent, dharman bhāgavatāmṛta, your dharma is to worship God. Komara acharate pragyo dharman bhāgavatāmṛta dulabam manasanjanma. Why? This human form of life, dulabam manasa janma. This human form of life is rare. Tarapya dhruvam artadam. And even though it's temporary, and other species are temporary, artadam, it possesses great value because he's telling his classmates this. This is very special devotion since he was very, very young. So Nārada is very excited to see him. Yaya swapitra vihitas sahasram upatrava dharana vigna rupa chitastvaya yasya tavanubhavat sarve bhavan bhagavata hidaya. When your own father tried to torture and kill you in 1,000 ways, you thwarted all his attempts. By your influence, all the demons have now become devotees. So give it up. No, I'm not giving up. There's nothing. I'll do this, I'll do that. No, there's no pain greater than giving up devotion. That was his sentiment. There's no pain you can cause me greater than giving up devotion. And there's nothing greater you can give me than devotion. Because look, he'll give you the next king of the universe. Can you imagine all the opulence and power? And don't we love opulence because we can control? Instead of riding coach, we can go business class. And instead of business class to India, we can fly first class to India. And then instead of first class, you can get your private plane. And then you can get your $400 million yacht with a jacuzzi and dining halls and be at sea. And everybody's suffering from COVID, you're out in the fresh air. Fools. Because time and tide wait for no man. Time and tide wait for no man. Prabhupada says, as sure as death. What duality? When you're on these big boats and your big planes, and what duality? You know it's just going to be ended. It's torture. You know it's going to end. And when you get those desires, they don't satisfy the heart. And if you're in that bhav, that my happiness will be superior to others, it never works. It never works because you're always threatened. You have so much envy. Krishna vistoyos smitatam evam mito nityam gayam kampamano rudamscha lokan sarvam udaram samshritabhyo vishnur bhaktim harshayam asatanvam. Wrapped in thoughts of Lord Krishna, you appear like a madman, singing, dancing, trembling, and crying. You rescue everyone from the cycle of repeated birth and death. You gave them pure devotional service for Lord Krishna. In this way, you fill them with transcendental bliss. So you have it and you give it. How great is that? You're experiencing something, you're tasting something, and you're distributing. And of course, that's Prabhupada's mission. You taste it and you distribute it. So how great is that? And you forget the world. It's interesting because here it describes you're uttam, you're just in this bhav, and you're forgetful of this world, but you can come to the platform and make discrimination and give it to others. And I describe this concept of uttam. Your devotion is so great. It creates such a sense of God's presence that your humility and your concept of being separated from him creates such deep humility in your heart and such devotion that becomes your vision. It's not intellectual. It's not even shastric. Yes, intellect and shastra you'll use to practice and get there, but the mood, it's not on the discriminatory platform. You're just in a mood of devotion. You're seeing everyone serving Krishna better than you. But still, he has to rescue people. And you rescue people, you have to see that there's some distinction. So he's describing like this. Okay, we'll stop for today. Jumunajaya, you have any points?
Raj, thank you so much for class. There were several points, but something you said at the beginning just was so simple, and I loved it so much, that Krishna is both the horizontal and the vertical thread that holds everything together. That's such a beautiful analogy. It makes me think of the verse like in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says that, he's the thread and everything is just pearls on him.
Paratanam nanya kinchit asti dhananjaya. Everything is resting on me as pearls are resting on a thread. Yeah, nice.
I've always loved that because he's holding us together, but in a way it's so humble because he's back here and the pearls are up there. So, and I just quickly want to say, I was listening to a class the other day and someone was asking about the conundrum and how to explain Padasevanam. And we know that Lakshmi is the exemplar of that, but the way you just said it right now, just to like worship the humble feet.
Service.
Yeah.
It actually means, it's not literally serve the lotus feet. It literally means humble service. So sweeping the dham, paying obeisances, the things that move the body in a humble position are padasevanam.
This was such a good explanation. Thank you, Maharaj.
It's from the Bhakti Sandarbha, which I had the fortune of being practically the first person in the English language to study it, because I had the first version of the translation in English. It never was in English before it was published, because my friend translated it. So I had this jewel. It was my favorite book until the famous story was Raghunath was visiting me and asked if he could see that book. And I said, just be very careful. I've underlined it in 150 different pages on each page and this. And he goes outside and falls asleep and the monkeys rip it to pieces. I still have it with the tape that keeps it together.
I didn't realize that was that book. I've heard the monkey story many times.
It was that book. It was my favorite book, my most important book, with my most notes.
dear. Goodness. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Gail, what's up?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. A couple things are up. One is, remember when you were saying that there are some devotees here in this world, they have no desires at all, but they do have material bodies. How is that?
Ihayasya hṛd-yānataḥ karmana manasa gira Nicholas Tuavapta jivan mukta suchade. They're called liberated souls. But how it is they may have become liberated, but they still need to practice and get prema, so they need a body. So they may be liberated, but they may not have prema, but they need the body to practice.
Okay,
So,
to develop that love.
Right, but they can be liberated. You can be liberated before love of prema. Yeah.
Okay, I thought that they were actually referring to, because I thought when in that verse when he mentioned that they have no desires, I thought they had no desires because of their love, but I guess not.
They have no desires, but there's different platforms.
Yeah. Okay, Maharaj, one more thing. I didn't hear you say this exact sentence today, but you said it Wednesday, where Lord Shiva said to Nārada Muni, when he was talking about, when he wanted to direct him to Prahlāda, he said, "Hear with faith," right?
Yeah.
And, you always say, faith is not, I believe, or I don't believe. So in this context, what does hear with faith mean?
Trust me. Trust me. And therefore, hear with faith also means hear with attention. This is important.
Great. Thank you,
Okay.
Maharaj.
Thanks, Gail. Anyone else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, Tota Gopinath here. So great to hear from you.
Great, Tota. Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Jai Shri Radhe. Haribo.
Thank you for the class.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Gurudev. I just wanted to say that you mentioned one Sanskrit word that sounded very like Russian word, prichina or prichina. How does it sound?
Prichina.
Prichina is the exact Russian word that means the reason, the cause.
Well, prichina means, if I believe, I think it means Pracina. It means very old. But we know Russia means Rishi land. So we know that Russia is connected with all the former sages, and there's some connection. The great rishis of Russia. So we know it's a mystical land. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Surya Radha here. Thanks for the class.
Haribo, nice to see you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Vancouver?
Yeah.
Okay. Keep on plugging away. Krishna will fulfill your desires. Okay, anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Malati.
Shai, Haribo. Good to see you.
Wonderful to see you. Thanks for a great class. I love particularly the section talking about Shiva and Radha's relationship. That was really beautiful.
Oh, great. Great. Yeah. That's great. Okay, thanks, Malati. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yavat Sundari and Orezu here.
Haribo. Shai, great to see you.
Hari Hari Bol. Yeah,
Good.
thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you for the class.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yokanamrita, Haribhushan, Haribo.
Hare Krishna, thank you greatly, Maharaj, for the class. Thank you.
Okay, great. Haribo. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, this is Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta.
Jai, Richard. Radhe, Haribo. Jai. Good to hear from you. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. This is Samala.
Amala, we're praying for everyone.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Very difficult situation.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. Not quite, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Guru.
Bhakti began Goswami's in Russia still?
No, in Israel now.
I mean, he's in Israel now.
Yes, yes.
By the Dead Sea?
Yes, 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 yes. We have a retreat. Some days, yes.
Is the retreat still going on?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Anybody else?
Thank you very much, Guru.
Hey, Krishna Maharaj, thank you for class.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
What's going on there?
We're in the car.
Okay. A joyride.
No, we're going to the Bhakti Center. We're seeing Kesava Maharaj is doing the class in the morning.
Oh, great, great, great. Nice. Good. Wonderful. Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, this is Kishori Radha.
Haribo. Haribo.
Haribo.
Good to see you, hear you. Okay, I'm going to head out now. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevij.